Welcome to the Mindful Practice Podcast, a space for physicians navigating burnout, identity shifts, and career change without pressure or judgment. I'm your host, Dr. Bertina Hooks, a board-certified internal medicine physician, coach, and writer. Here we talk honestly about what it means to build a sustainable career and a life beyond medicine and survival. Career pivots without panic. Redesigning your medical career. Welcome back to the Mindful Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bertina Hooks. Today, we're talking about career pivots. A career pivot is not a failure. It is not betrayal. And it is not quitting. This episode is about taking panic out of the career reinvention and transition process. Why pivot feels so threatening to physicians? Medicine trains physicians for a linear path. Deviation is rarely discussed and often judged. Fear shows up quickly. I wasted my training. I'm disappointing people. What if I can't get back in or practice clinically again? Those fears come from conditioning, not truth. In reality, any physician can resume clinical practice, and there are re-entry programs available. At the most, depending on your specialty, you should not leave clinical medicine for more than 1 to 2 years. However, it is possible to return to clinical medicine if you do transition into non-clinical. That comes from a myth, from fears and other things from our training, but it's not the truth. And the other myths that are dispelled is that people who transition to non-clinical medicine are selling out. In actuality, physicians who transition into non-clinical paths are actually using the same transferable clinical skills that they were when they were practicing clinically. And they are feeling more fulfilled than when they were practicing clinically as well. And their roles can have more of an impact on patients on a larger scale than practicing clinical medicine. The reason I know this is because I've experienced both sides as a practicing clinical physician and in the non-clinical industries as well. Really, your medical degree should be considered to be a launching pad for you to explore anything, a means to an end. That's why some physicians explore entrepreneurship or medical devices. They may become entrepreneurs and form restaurants or become publishers. Remember that your medical degree is a means to an end. It does not define who you are. Your values do. Personal reflection. How my career evolved. My career didn't pivot in one dramatic moment. It redesigned gradually. As I mentioned before, I was experiencing burnout as a full-time hospitalist, and I transitioned into locums in order to have more autonomy, flexibility, and higher compensation. And at that time, locums really gave me the freedom that I desired, and that minimized burnout considerably. Eventually, I did start feeling burnout again And after illness and disability, I asked myself, what is still possible? What protects my health? And what allows me to remain a physician without sacrificing myself? It was at that time in December 2022, after my hospitalization, I started to explore other non-clinical pathways, such as pharma and biotech, utilization management, telemedicine, coaching, writing, and education. None of these career paths erased my identity as a physician. It only expanded it. What a career pivot actually is. A pivot is a reorientation. It can include changing how you practice, changing where you practice, changing how much you practice, adding non-clinical work alongside clinical work. Many pivots are reversible. You are allowed to experiment. You are allowed to explore other avenues. And that is okay. It's important to give yourself the permission, grace, and gratitude to explore those without any grief or guilt. When I was exploring the other pathways, for me, I was interested in non-clinical pathways in order to protect my health. 3.1% of physicians become disabled at some point in their career, but they still can have viable careers, whether it's in clinical medicine or non-clinical or alternative clinical pathways such as telemedicine, locums, medical expert work, utilization management, pharma, and biotech. Throughout this podcast series, I'm going to be showing you and sharing with you my experiences with my career reinvention, but I'm also going to be sharing the experiences of other physicians who have made that transition as well. The grief and guilt no one talks about. Career pivots often bring grief. Grief for the career imagined, grief for uncertainty. There's also guilt for wanting something different. These emotions do not mean you are doing something wrong. They mean you cared deeply. And it's important for us as physicians when doing a career pivot to process that grief and guilt. Part of those feelings are due to the white coat mythology and imposter syndrome we already discussed. But it's important to grieve and let go of those misconceptions in order to redefine your identity. Common myths about career pivots. If I pivot, I can never go back. Pivoting means I failed. I need to know my forever path. These myths keep physicians stuck. We are breaking them here. These myths will no longer hold power over us. That is what this podcast is for. To dismantle those myths and misconceptions and provide clarity going forward. You don't have to announce your pivot. You do not owe anyone an explanation. You are allowed to explore privately. Clarity grows best without an audience. That's why when you're doing this work, it's important to align yourself with a mentor, therapist, and coach who can help you guide you through this process. Coaching is meant for you to develop a framework in order to evaluate, your goals, ambitions, and values. And it's very thoughtful process that needs to be done. A coach is supposed to help guide you, but you are the one who ultimately determines your career path. And it's also important to give yourself grace and permission to explore without guilt or grief. And if you consider or explore a career path and you don't like it, it's not a life or death situation. You can just explore another pathway, and at least you'll know that that pathway is not a good fit. A thoughtful pivot framework. Why you want to change. What you're moving towards. How you'll test that career market safely. What stays in your career and what is no longer serving you in your career. This keeps pivots grounded, not reactive. It's important to explore the answers to these questions when you're doing that self-discovery. You do not have to blow your career to change it. You are allowed to redesign. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are evolving. It is important to understand that redesigning your medical career takes a strategic plan. It takes time, patience, and persistence. The answers will not come overnight, but once you do get that clarity, and you're working with a coach to help you determine a strategic plan, you can design the career that is ideal for you. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Practice podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, you can find free burnout and career clarity resources at pinnaclebusinessacademy.org. And if this podcast supported you, please consider subscribing or sharing it with a colleague who might need it. Remember, you are more than your white coat. You are not broken, and you are allowed to evolve. Until next time, take care of yourself, not just your role.